Westfield Memorial Hospital provides high-quality health care to residents of Western New York, offering patients the most sophisticated medical advancements while keeping the ease and familiarity of a community hospital. Support for Chautauqua Sunrise has been provided by WRFA 107.9 FM, Jamestown's public radio station, streaming online 24/7 at WRFALP.com. Low power to the people. Meter's Restaurant, a family tradition for over 50 years in downtown Ripley, is a proud supporter of Chautauqua Sunrise. Meter's provides all-day dining, banquet services, and custom catering, specializing in pie. Funding for Chautauqua Sunrise is provided in part by the Chautauqua County Industrial Development Agency, with offices in Jamestown and Dunkirk, helping businesses to prosper throughout Chautauqua County. From supporting people with disabilities to enjoy great lives to providing health care services that are available to anyone, the Resource Center has been improving our county for more than 60 years. Learn more about how the Resource Center makes a positive difference in people's lives.
Is getting vaccinated on your to-do list? We can help you check it off because we make getting vaccinated easy. You've got this because we've got you. To learn more, visit yougotthis.usaging.org.
From the Access Chautauqua Studios in Mayville, it's Chautauqua Sunrise. Chautauqua Sunrise is hosted by Doc Hamels and supported by the award-winning volunteers at Access Chautauqua. We are here to share local news, colorful interviews, and events of interest to everyone. Chautauqua Sunrise is broadcast live Saturday mornings each week from 9 to 10 a.m. Send events via email or call us live. Check us out on YouTube and Facebook. And now, from the Access Chautauqua Studios, it's Chautauqua Sunrise.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Doc Hamels, and welcome to Chautauqua Sunrise. I hope you're all doing well on this beautiful Saturday morning here in Mayville, New York. For those of you that are staying with us for the week, or you are with your summer cottages, or just visiting, welcome Chautauqua County. I hope you're enjoying everything that's going on here. To me, Chautauqua County is like a treasure chest. You just gotta kind of open little doors or talk to people to find out what's going on, because there's all kinds of great things going on here all year round, and more so. So I hope that you're enjoying your stay. I know we had some wet weather yesterday, but it is what it is. And but it looks like we're going to have a nice weekend. So hopefully you are enjoying your stay here. For those of you that are full-time residents, y'all know how we do business here, and we've got a great show in store for you. We're going to do what I call Kenya Part 2. We're going to dig deep in the culture and the customs of folks in Kenya with a friend of mine, Karin Cockram, and I won't tell anything more, but she's waiting in the wings to come on the show. Okay, so good morning to y'all. Good afternoon for you that are watching us over in Europe and everywhere else. So a good shout out to Natalia and friends over in the Ukraine. As always, our hearts and thoughts are with all of you, that you stay safe. I want to say hello to the folks in Saudi Arabia. Last week, a gentleman was watching us from Saudi Arabia. I don't know how this is possible, Justin. I guess the word is finally getting out. Watch those guys over there in Chautauqua County. Anyways, for many of you that don't know this, let's see if I can do this. I'm directionally challenged. Over here behind me is a world map, and we put pins on the map wherever someone is watching us throughout the world. And if you are watching this and you are from somewhere and you want us to put a pin on the board, we'll be happy to do it. And hey, Justin, can you get a shot of the board for me while I'm talking a little bit? You might say, oh, they got a pin in the United States, big deal. No, we got the Philippines, Thailand, we got, let's see, where else? Germany, the Netherlands, now Saudi Arabia. So wherever you see a pin over there, we are picking up people that view us. And hopefully we're going to get our first pin in Africa soon, this week. So if you are tuning in because you're going to watch the show about Kenya today, drop us a little note on our Facebook page and like the show, and then we'll definitely get your pin in there. Thanks, Justin. Oh, there we go. And then, of course, we're down into the islands and over in Hawaii and up into Alaska. And you might say, how's this possible? Because people that come on the show, they have relatives or friends, or people just catch us. I don't know. Social media is quite an interesting world to be living in, and we've been there for quite a long time. Okay, what else is going on? All right, so I always try to give a shout out to all the other things that are going on here in the county. And last week they wrapped up the rodeo. I saw 11,000 people went to the rodeo. So good on you guys. That was a great fundraiser. We've got something coming up here soon, is the Wine and Grape Festival in Westfield. It's going to be the first part of September. And my friend Don McCord said to make sure that you go onto the Westfield site. There's a QR code that you can tap on or go into their site and do a survey. They're looking for community surveys to be filled out for feedback. So I'll try to remember to have that next week, and we'll maybe pop that QR code. A lot of people don't know how to use a QR code, but basically you just take your iPhone and you just tap on it, and it takes you right to a site, and then you can go from there. So cool technology. Farmers markets are going on right now. Great fun. Westfield is going on right now. I was there the other day, and it's just wonderful. I don't know, like 40 different pop-ups there, and then you've got Jamestown, the place I played over the years. Because generally at the markets there's music. I'll be in Westfield in 2 weeks, so I'm looking forward to that. It's been a long time since I've been on stage. It's been since October, so I got to kind of get back into my groove there. But I'm looking forward to performing for that farmers market. Well, you know what? Rather than me tell you all about it, I would recommend that you get the Chautauqua Gazette. Lori Cornell was here not too long ago, and she's got her Gazette, and in there it has all the farmers markets and all the other events that are going on. We highlight some of them, and we will here in a minute, that are going on that we get through our emails. And let's tell them, Jeff, how we do that. If you have an event or you want to make a comment today, you can do these two things. You can call us live right here at 716-753-5225. Generally, Jeff pops that right up. Look at that, magic, how's that? And then, then you also can email us at, we'll get to that in a minute. I'm talking about emailing here. Yeah. And you can also email us at chautauquasunrise@gmail.com throughout the week. And there we go. Okay, so let's do that one more time. 753-5225. You can call us today, right now, between 9 and 10. Share an event. A lot of times you hear Linda Spalding calls in and talks about their chicken barbecue, or someone else will tell us about whatever else is going on in their community. It's free of charge. I'm happy to do it. And of course, you can email me throughout the week, and we do get emails. And just tell us about your event. If you have a poster, send that right along. We'll try to get it on. Okay, so let's bring up that other banner now. And so I want to remind folks that we are also on the air Tuesdays at 1 o'clock in Jamestown, New York, on my good friends at WRFA 107.9, low power to the people. That's my radio voice. At 1 o'clock, and we're so grateful that they give us that opportunity to spread what we're talking about throughout the county in their world. So good on you folks, and I hope you're all doing well on a Tuesday at 1 o'clock. Thanks for joining us. Okay, what else I got here? My Board of Election contacts tell me, now let's see if I get this straight, Justin, that there's going to be training for, if you're interested in being election inspector, and they're looking for some. And so they've got some training coming up. It's called the Mid-County Area. It's going to be held at the Asheville BOCES, also known as the Hughes Educational Center, my old stomping grounds. And it's going to be held Tuesday, August 13th, from 1 to 3 and 5:30 to 7:30. Are those separate sessions, or are you at the So it's one or the other, not both. All right, so let me say that again. So Tuesday, August 13th, these are 2-hour sessions from 1 to 3 or 5:30 to 7:30. Or the next day, Wednesday, August 14th, from 1 to 3, 5:30 to 7:30. And then Thursday, this is in the morning, August 15th, from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. And they pay you to be an inspector, right? Do you know the rate?
You get paid $50 for the training.
50.
With your election day.
Uh-huh. All right, so you get an additional $50 if you attend the training, and then you get your hourly rate. And that's a long day. It's like a 12-hour day or something like that. Yeah. So anyways, it's all part of our democracy. It's all part of the election process here in our country. And if you're interested in being an inspector, you can go to the Board of Elections in Chautauqua County website and find out more information. And to get the phone number. Anyways, I was asked to share that, and I did that. So, all right, let's do some announcements, and then we'll get to my guest, who's anxiously awaiting to come on. All right, Finley Lake. This weekend, so today, it started yesterday, but also today and tomorrow, Finley Lake's bicentennial celebration is being held this weekend. Events include displays, games, live music, vintage parade, kayak, poker paddle. Justin, say that 10 times fast. Kayak, poker paddle. I don't think I can say it more than 3 times in a row. Fireworks and a whole lot more. The Town of Mina 2024 Bicentennial Celebration, schedules of events. All right, so we'll skip yesterday. Today, August 10th, starting at 10 a.m. is called a Vintage Parade. I guess that's for guys my age. Then there's the gazebo program following the parade. Kayak poker paddle at 1. Tickets at local stores. Shady Side Band at the gazebo 7 to 9 p.m. tonight. And fireworks at 10 p.m. Tomorrow, August 11th, the camp at Finley at 10 a.m. Community, multi-denominational service. That's a long word. This is at Camp Finley. There's a community multi-denominational service under the tent. Bring a lawn chair and everyone is welcome. So that's going on in Finley Lake, just down the road from here. Then Gus Macker, okay, this is the basketball competition, is going to be held August 10th through the 11th. It's going to be at the Jamestown Community College over on Faulkner Street. In partnership with the City of Jamestown, Collaborative Children's Solutions, Pat Smeraldo and Company, will host the Gus Macker 3-on-3 basketball tournament. Join them on August 10th and 11th for all of the action for all ages in helping Gus Macker celebrate its 50th anniversary. If you watch a Gus Macker competition, it looks like something you see on the Olympics right now, where you got 2-on-2 and 3-on-3 and so forth. By the way, are you watching the Olympics? It's pretty interesting. I saw breakdancing. That was the first year I think they ever had breakdancing, and I could never do that. One of my kids could do it, but I couldn't. All right, slide 16, Fly Me to the Moon at the Fredonia Opera House. Okay, this is going to be August 10th and the 13th. If you don't know where the Opera House is, it's at 9 Church Street, right in the middle of Fredonia. You can't miss it. The cinema series at the 1891 Fredonia Opera House Performing Arts Center continues with Fly Me to the Moon. It'll be screened, as I said, today, August 10th, and Tuesday, August 13th at 7:30. Brought in to fix NASA's public image, sparks fly in all directions as marketing maven Kelly Jones wreaks havoc on launch director Cole Davis's already difficult task. When the White House deems the mission too important to fail, Jones is directed to stage a fake moon landing as backup in the countdown truly begins. I haven't heard this one before. Financial Times calls the film a tribute to the rom-coms of a time before the phrase had been invented. The powder pink era of Doris Day, and so on. And it's gotten all kinds of credit. So it runs 2 hours and 12 minutes. Tickets are available at the door for $7, $6.50 for seniors, that would be me, and $5 for students the night of each screening. Okay, also please know that the Opera House is equipped with assistive listening headsets for the hearing impaired. Simply request one from the usher or staff member. If you haven't been there, it is a wonderful venue, just like our own Reg Lene, and I've had the honor of playing on both stages over the years, so I have fond memories of the Opera House. Okay, let's move on. I don't know if this is new or old. Dance Fest. It's a repeat. All right. How do you know these things? I don't remember all this. Join us for the inaugural Jamestown Dance Festival, a celebration of diverse dance forms and cultural expressions. This festival will feature performance. Oh, wait a minute. Hang on. This is already done, Jeff. Is that true? Jeff, you led me astray. For those of you that attended the Dance Fest, I hope you enjoyed yourself this past week, and they had all kinds of different types of dance. So we're going to move on. Slide 18. Oh, you gotta love live TV. Okay, slide 18. I saw the TV glow. It's going to be shown the 14th of August at 7. And this is at the Reg Linné. Is a filmmaker Schoenbrun's latest teenager. This is Jane Schoenbrun's latest. Teenager Owen is just trying to make it through life in the suburbs when his classmate introduces him to a mysterious late-night TV show, a vision of supernatural worlds beneath their own. In the pale glow of the television, Owen's view of reality begins to crack. I Saw the TV Glow is rated PG-13. It's 100 minutes long. Okay, so that sounds like fun. Coming up, movies at the Reg include the Oscar nominee June Squibb in the crime comedy Thelma. And then you got, that's going to be August 21, Disney Pixar's Inside Out. Number 2 is going to be August 23. And then you got the summer action thriller Twisters. That's going to be September 13th. And The Fabulous Four on September 18th. Despicable Me 4, one of my favorites. I like the Minions, on September 20th. Tickets are generally about $8 and a little bit cheaper for family, $7. If you're interested, give them a call at the box office at 484-7070. So that new film is I Saw the TV Glow. And here I just thought it was indigestion. All right, and they're back. All right, so we're going to take a little breather. We'll be right back. This little PSA is for you.
When you're out there, there's no telling what you'll find.
I see it, Oh, look at you.
There are some moments only the forest can inspire. Find yours at discovertheforest.org.
I love that little PSA. My grandsons were here. Maybe you remember they were in the wings a couple weeks ago. And living in Florida and living in New York State, obviously, is very different terrain and geography and fauna and flowers and all that stuff. And they were really enjoy looking at of all things, fungus. I don't know if they don't have mushrooms down there or not, but we were having a great time walking through the woods. And of course, checking out the birds of different colors that they don't have down there. And then of course, there were similar things. And of course, frogs. We have frogs in our ponds and things like that. So get kids out there in nature. It's a good place to be. All right. So while I was in Greece, Barb and I were in Greece back this spring. Randy was covering for me. And lo and behold, unbeknownst to me, he had a friend of mine, Karin Cockram, on the show. And they were talking about her experiences in Kenya. So Karin, I want to welcome you back to part 2.
Thank you so much. I'm really glad to be back.
Now, you've been to Kenya and back since then?
I have.
Okay, so we'll get into all that here in a minute. So you and I have known each other a bit. I don't remember how far back. How far back? You were playing piano for something.
Lakeshore Center for the Arts.
Right.
It was probably 6 years ago, 7 years
Could
ago?
be. I remember we were doing, what was that show where we're like dead people? Rick's Harvest Moon.
Harvest Moon.
Okay,
Yep.
and that was...
Oh gosh, that was even longer ago.
Yeah, I was in the one where I was the mayor of Westfield.
Okay.
So-
In the sanctuary. of the church.
Yes,
Upstairs.
yes,
So
yes,
it
yes,
might
yes.
have been 10 or 12 years ago.
Oh my gosh!
now.
Well, anyway, so we're both musicians, and we did a doo-wop song, didn't we?
We did.
The three of us, you, me, and Kelly Matthews, right?
Yes, we did.
That was lots of fun.
Yeah.
So, and that was a Spring Fest type.
Spring Fling, yep.
Yeah, with Libby and company, and so it's really nice to see you here today.
Thank you.
I didn't even realize some of the things you've been doing. I didn't know too much about your career until Randy had you on the show. And then I think I contacted you and said, maybe you would like to be at our Rotary Club and so forth. So, and we'll get into all that sort of thing. But I know some things about you, and it's all very interesting. And I thought maybe you'd like to share your background just a wee bit of where'd you grow up and, how'd you get here?
Well, I was born in Needham, Massachusetts. And when I was about 2, my dad was hired by the Ugandan Department of Education to go to Uganda to set up schools in Uganda because the country's president, Milton Obote at the time, wanted the country to be more educated and knew that he didn't have the resources in country to do that. So he had teachers from the U.S. go to Uganda to set up schools, and students from Uganda came to the U.S. to get their teaching degrees.
So was this through the Peace Corps or through?
This was just through the Department of Education.
Department.
So the U.S. and Ugandan Departments of Education had an exchange. We were there. Idi Amin took over. I didn't bring it this time. I showed it last time. There's a picture of me and Idi Amin when he came into the Capitol building where I was a preschooler. Have a picture of my dad meeting him. Idi Amin, for those who don't know, was a horrendous dictator in Uganda in the early 70s, through the 70s. About a year later, we were forced to flee. We did have to leave in the middle of the night on the floor, covered with blankets of a car, and taken into Kenya, where we stayed for a couple of months till we realized we weren't going back to Uganda.
That was due to the fact
that Amin had already cleansed the country of the Indian population and the British population, and then turned his sights to the Americans. And so Americans were the next to leave. He died in 2001, I think, but he was also sent out of the country in the early 80s maybe, and lived in, I think, Saudi Arabia for the rest of his life, or around in exile.
Yeah, I remember over the years, Idi Amin was not a good name.
No.
He was right up there with other despicables.
He's still considered one of the 10 worst dictators in the history.
So in Uganda, you were there from the time you were 2 to?
2 till I was 5.
So about 3 years then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just over 3 years.
So you went to preschool in Uganda?
I went to preschool in Uganda.
Were there other Americans, or you were with the children from Uganda?
It was an international preschool, but I don't think there were any other Americans. I think that they were mostly European and African.
Okay. And for those of you that are listening right now, I'm no specialist on African history, but I do know that there were a number of European countries that colonized, and so you said British, and that makes a lot of sense, because I know they had various colonies that we talked about, the Dutch, Belgians, and Portuguese, and so forth.
Right.
I mean, they were trying to colonize all these different areas for gain.
Yeah.
So, and the story goes on and on after that. Okay, so you're 5 years old, and in the middle of the night. So, who alerted your family that you had to leave?
The U.S. Embassy.
Oh.
The U.S. Embassy said, okay, you're next on the list, Mr. Seeger. You're out of here.
You're out of here.
Yeah.
And was this because you feared for your lives?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Dad was cited for death, and the family would have gone also.
Because
I may have been married off. I was 5. I might have been old enough to be married off. But
if you were captured.
If I was captured.
So your dad was a teacher.
Dad was a teacher.
But he was on a hit list?
Yeah.
Because they didn't want Americans in the country. Because he was just doing this, pure kind of, sounds like Hitler.
Yeah.
Same concept.
Yeah, it was cleansing. It was a cleansing.
Wow. That's...
Yeah.
It's almost hard to fathom. Okay, so you leave Uganda and now you're in Kenya.
Now we're in Kenya.
So what were you doing in Kenya? I mean, were you there
Well,
very long?
we were only there for a couple of months because my parents were just waiting to go back to Uganda. Really wanted to go back, and so we were there as guests of the Kenyan government for, I think it was about 2.5 months.
Okay.
And then it was realized that Idi Amin was there to stay, and so we came back to the U.S.
So where in Kenya were you staying? In
Nairobi, the capital
and that's
city.
the capital. Okay. And okay, so for those that are not geographically oriented, where would you say Kenya is for folks?
Kenya is the very eastern edge of Africa, where where there's a big bump. It's right on the bottom of that bump. It's on the Indian Ocean, so it's as far east as you can go, and about halfway down the continent.
Okay. I would think if you're on the ocean, there'd be beaches and stuff? Or?
There are beaches. If you get over to the Mombasa area, there are beaches and resorts, and yeah.
I think I read that the Portuguese were colonizing there, and then the British came in. So what influence would you say remains today, or is it all of them?
Well, there's a lot of British influence still, because there are two national languages in Kenya. One is Swahili and one is English. So, my name's spelled wrong. So everybody speaks Swahili, everybody speaks English. And there are a lot of things like, there's still kind of a tea time that happens a lot in the afternoon.
High tea.
Not high tea,
no,
but
high
there's
tea's
a
fancy
break,
tea.
there's a tea time.
Yeah.
But Kenyan people are taking back their own selves, their own stories. So the influence, while it's there, it's underlying. It's not quite as obvious as it would have been, except in the English speaking and a lot of the language. And I was mentioning earlier that Swahili is actually very much a combination, or is very much influenced by both English and Arabic. So there are a lot of words in. People used to joke when I was trying to learn Swahili that if I didn't really know the word, just to say the English word and put an E on the end of it, like the word for doctor in Swahili is daktari. So if I didn't know, I could say, teachery, which is not the word for teacher, but I could say something like that and people would understand because there's enough English in there.
Yeah. I was laughing when you said it was a combination by these two languages, because when I go to Germany, we call it Germish. Because between my friends, our family and friends there, and myself, we just sort of like butcher the language, and we just kind of laugh about it, but we get through.
Yeah, I butcher Swahili pretty well at this point.
Well, it's one of those things. Languages, for some folks, it takes a little bit of time, and I would not know how to even begin to get my head around Swahili. So I guess you have to be there long enough and keep working with it.
Yeah.
All right. So, at a young age, you had an experience at Kenya, and it must have been rather positive, I'm guessing.
Must have been, because I've always felt an affinity for, like, if I hear an East African accent, it just makes me melt. The first time I saw the movie Out of Africa, I was a freshman in college, and I thought, oh my gosh, that's what homesick means, when I was watching some of the panorama at the beginning of that movie. And so yeah, there's been a lot of, and of course I grew up with a zebra skin on the wall of our house and elephant tusks over the fireplace, and so that was always around where I was living too.
Wait a minute, you had elephant tusks at your house?
Yes. Legally, we had them legally
in
our
the
house.
United States?
In the United States, because a year after we got back, the people who had worked with us in Uganda had packed up all of our stuff and had it shipped. And exactly a year to the day after we returned to the United States, all of our stuff showed up from Uganda.
And so when I say this in all sincerity, that's amazing.
Yeah. It is amazing.
Because I know even to this day, if you're shipping something through Africa, just from our rotary work, it's very difficult.
Right. And you couldn't bring ivory in now.
now.
You couldn't possibly bring an ivory tusk in now. We got ours from poacher rescues. So when the government was rescuing the animals or arresting poachers, they would then sell what the poachers already had killed to raise money to do more prevention of poaching. And so those tusks were bought through the prevention program. So they were legal. We have the certificates and everything, which you could not do at this point.
So all this was shipped to Massachusetts?
So this was all, we had actually moved to the Finger Lakes by then.
All right.
My parents came back and wanted to live closer to their families, and my parents were both born and raised in central New York.
Okay.
So we ended up back in the Finger Lakes area in Penn Yan. So we were living in Penn Yan at the time.
So somewhere in Penn Yan there's some elephant tusks?
There are.
Very, very
my sister
cool.
inherited them when my parents died,
Oh,
yes.
wow.
Yep.
That's a great story.
Yeah.
Scary story, though.
The only thing that was taken, they knew that this is a pain. The only thing that was taken out of the box was one dress, a yellow dress that my mom had made for me. But everything else, that didn't make it through security or through the soldiers.
Somebody
but
needed
everything
that
else
dress,
made
huh?
it. Everything else.
Okay, so fast forward, you're now in Penn Yan?
Yep.
All right, and you're 5 or 6 years old or whatever, so then you went to school there?
Went to school there, graduated from Penn Yan Academy.
Okay.
Yeah. Went to Utica College and then Keuka College to get my degrees in occupational therapy.
I know very much that Keuka is a very good school, especially for special education
Yes.
and training for folks like with
My
OT.
mom was a nursing student there, and it
Okay.
was when it was a really good nursing school. And I was in the first graduating class of occupational therapists.
Wow.
So
I know when I was interviewing people, if somebody came from Keuka College, I looked at their resume very carefully because I knew that they had a good background. And Buff State, those were
Yep,
the two.
yep.
And that was my alma mater. So, all right, so you graduated from Keuka College and OT. So what is OT? People may not know what OT is.
occupational therapists are specialists in nothing, the same, but in integration and holism. We go through our therapy programs, whereas a physical therapist is very focused on physical rehabilitation and physical development, and psychologists very much in psychology and so on. Occupational therapists are the center of the wheel. We're the ones that try to bring all of it together. Say, okay, you can't just fix your broken leg if you've got some psychological issues going along with the fact that you can't do X, Y, and Z. So we work across the lifespan in anything. We work in physical disabilities, we work with cognitive problems, we work with mental health, and we try to combine them all together to create a whole person or to help a
I call
person
it the
become whole
atomic
again.
glue.
I like
Brings it
that.
all together.
Atomic glue.
Yeah.
That works.
I always
That
used
works.
to say that, it was like life skills, daily living
we do those
skills,
too.
feeding,
Yeah.
eating, dressing,
Yep.
plus ambulation and all that.
All of that,
And
yeah.
you work closely with all the other disciplines. I
That's
know
right.
that.
Absolutely.
Knowing all that, because I used to work with OTs and had a great relationship with them. Okay, so you graduate from Keuka, and then what happens?
Well, I had a health service corps scholarship, so I did internships in Auburn, New York, and Chicago, Illinois. And then I had to come back and work for New York State for 3 years because I'd had a scholarship for 2 years. So worked here, got engaged, got married, had kids.
In
Moved,
Penn
moved back to Penn Yan. I was
Okay.
living in Dansville
Okay.
after college, and then moved back to Penn Yan because my husband had a house there, even though he wasn't from Penn Yan. Ended up back there. Then about 5 years after we got married, no, 8 years after we got married, we moved to Wisconsin
Oh.
and had our third child there. Lived there for 6 years. Wanted to come back to New York State because most of our family is still here.
Right.
So Steve got a job back here when his company was sold in Wisconsin, and we ended up in Westfield in 2005.
All right, so you're growing roots in the Westfield area, right? Okay. And so now, what are you doing now?
Now, mostly I'm volunteering in Kenya, but I'm an occupational therapist I contract with Chautauqua County for preschool services, so I'm all over the county at different schools. I also got specialty certifications in driver rehabilitation and autism and in vision, developmental vision and vision in the elderly. Especially during COVID. I finished all of those certifications during COVID because I had time. And I'm about to become a grandmother this fall.
Well,
so
well
I think
done.
that'll take some time out of my life. But for the most part, and I also am a church musician. I currently play for 2 churches.
And you're a piano player, or pianist, right?
Yeah.
Right, all right.
And I'm the gallery director for Lakeshore Center for the Arts when I need something to fill my time.
All right, so,
Yeah, so that's what I
you
do.
had a family, you moved to Westfield, you're working, you're integrated into a number of places. So when did you get back to Kenya? I mean, how did this all come about?
Always wanted to go back, and then somebody at my husband's church heard of a medical team that was going back in November of 2022. So I said, great, I'll go, it's medical, this is great. So I went for a little over a week with a medical team, mostly from Jamestown. From Lane Women's Health was the majority of the team. And I didn't know it when I signed up to go, but they were midwives and nurses and a doula, a birth assistant.
I actually know what a doula is.
Okay.
I had to look it up one day.
So I went with them and didn't really know what I was going to be doing, but I had a really nice trip, got back to Kenya, it felt like home. I walked off the plane and just thought, oh, okay, this is where I'm
Bring back.
supposed to be.
And that was your first time back
That was my
since you
first
were
time
5?
back. It was almost exactly 50 years to the day that we had come back, that I got to go back.
Wow.
So then I realized that I was going back to Kenya as much as I could, and I found another organization called IBHQ, International Volunteer Headquarters, which is based in New Zealand, that contracts with volunteer agencies all over the world. And they happen to have a place in Kenya, and so I signed up and I went back to work in a special needs program. And a little bit of a fun story, I was supposed to be placed in a special needs program for preschoolers in a smaller city called Thika. And then I was pulled aside and told that I had to have my placement changed because they don't have elderly volunteers stay with the teenagers. So I was elderly. I'm officially now elderly.
Yes, I know that feeling.
Yeah.
It's like, what?
So
When
they
did
had
that
to move me
happen?
to a place where I would have my own room. That was the deal,
Oh.
is that you don't have to stay with the teenagers.
Oh, nice.
And I was more worried about the poor teenagers. You don't want to leave. They were from Mexico. You don't want to leave your home for the first time and then get stuck living with your grandmother. So I was like, yeah, well, good for them. So I ended up in Nairobi in the slums of Kibera at a special needs school, and fell in love with the people I was working with and the kids in the school. There's no age limit, so the kids are from age 12 to 35.
Wow.
One of them might be 36 now. We might have had a birthday. And met some amazing people. And so now I actually work with an organization called Acts of Compassion Foundation, which is a younger, newer organization that's small, that I'm trying to help. I'm trying to help them to recruit volunteers and grow their business a little bit. But they're the same kind of operation.
Okay, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Here. So, I'm a special ed teacher by trade, and you work right alongside guys like me and women like me, or in the field.
Like it.
So when you walk into this special needs school, what do you see?
Well, they have to rent space from a church. So I walk into a building that's a church
Okay.
over the weekends. This school, there's such a variety because I have now seen 11 or 12 different kinds of schools. Some of them are very well equipped. They have desks. They look like a school that you would walk into here.
Okay. More modern.
The one I go into is, again, it's a church, so they have to put everything away at the end of the week, and there are a lot of plastic tables and plastic chairs, and the teacher is absolutely outstanding. So she has what each kid needs, what each student needs set up for them, and I taught Kenyan Sign Language, so they'll do a little bit of a lesson of some sort, whether it's reading or sign language or math, at the beginning of the session, and then depending on the student's needs. And then some of them work on puzzles, and some of them work on latch hook rugs, and they're working on crocheting and beadwork. Some of them they do a lot with ADLs, activities of daily living, like brushing their
All right,
teeth.
so I'm listening right now. So in my mind, I'm categorizing that this is kind of a lower mental area of disability.
Yeah, it's a small school because it's private and there's only the one teacher in the aide, but there are some kids with autism, all ranges. There's one who's 20 years old who's still working on things like toileting and eating skills.
Yeah.
There are some who are very independent but can't currently function fully in society, like they can't get a job, they can't do work skills, they're not hireable. So they're working on work skills. So everything from basic skills to there's one the newest student there who's phenomenal with hairstyling. So we actually took hairstyling dummies for her to work on. So she started braiding. She braided my hair last time I was there, and it was beautiful. So she's really high functioning and may even be able to be employable in the future. So a huge range.
So here in the United States, our classrooms are set up differently. You wouldn't have, in the old days it would be that way when I first started teaching, wide range, but now they kind of group kids and young adults by what's the word, skill level, I guess, and IQs and things like that. There's a variety of things they use, but it sounds to me it's kind of open-ended there.
This is very
which is kind of interesting. How many students are in that school?
This one has 9. If you go into a regular ed class, the sizes are between 35 and 50 kids in a class with
That's
one teacher.
Regular ed.
That's regular ed.
So like 6th grade or something like that.
Right.
Okay.
Well, age 3, which they call PP1 and PP2 are preschool, 3 and 4-year-olds, and then kindergarten through 12th grade.
Right.
Well, 8th through 8th grade is mandatory. You can go to a secondary school if you score in, and you can pay for it. So yeah, K through 12, but classes up to 50 and special needs classes can be bigger also. There's there's a rehabilitation school that I go to, orthopedic rehab, so it's mostly orthopedics, not mental health or cognitive, but they had one class of about 15.
So when we say orthopedic, we're talking about children in wheelchairs or
Wheelchairs, cerebral palsy, recovering from surgeries.
TBI, traumatic brain injury. All right, and I know this is a tough question. I think I read how many millions of people live in Kenya, I don't know, like 47 million or something like this. All right, so did you find that there was a high prevalence of disability or sort of the normal?
I think it's pretty normal. It's
Okay.
pretty similar.
In some countries, children with disabilities are shunned. They're like almost locked away. It's sounding to me like Kenya's sort of progressive with these children.
Kenya is working very hard to be. There are some barriers. They're still working with some people, especially in more rural areas, on no, this is not the mom's fault. No, you haven't done anything wrong. This happened. But the push to have what they call special schools, and they call them special schools, our special needs programs, integrated is a very strong push. Some of the issues that they have are physically, there are buildings that have schools in them that you can't put an elevator in, you can't put a ramp in, and there's no space to add them. So there are some physical barriers like that to the program. But even in this orthopedic rehabilitation school that I've gone to, they've started integrating and bringing regular ed kids into the special needs school.
Yeah, if you
so
can't
that
push
they're
them in,
integrated.
bring the others in.
Yeah. So there's a big push, and there is a lot of work being done on acceptance. One of the stories I really like, in the slum in Kibera, which is where I spend most of my time, which is the biggest slum on the continent, one of the special needs students that I work with, who has cerebral palsy, who's in his 30s, has been hired by the governor of the area to be his bodyguard when he goes into the slum.
Wait a minute, let me get this right. This person is cerebral palsy and they're walking?
He's walking. He's ambulatory. All right. Yep. His verbal skills, he's really very smart, but his verbal skills aren't good, so he's difficult to understand no matter what language he's speaking. And he's not hireable because of his disability.
So he's a bodyguard.
But he's a bodyguard, so he will go and protect, people when they come into the
Wow.
Which I think is a huge step forward, because people are now seeing that this elected official sees the value in this person and is willing to incorporate him into his circle, and it makes a huge difference.
And that elevates that individual's worth. And I always find that the locals know things. They know people, and I'm sure when they go walking through that, hey, you, and and all that sort of thing. And boy, I bet he just beams when he does.
Oh, he does. He does.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, this is interesting. All right, so. One of the issues that we have, no matter what country, is financing schools. So how are schools financed? Through taxes or government or local, or how's that work?
Schools, there are private schools, there are public schools. Funded somewhat through the government, but everybody still has fees. You still have to pay, even if you're at a public school that is government funded, there are still fees for uniforms. People get 2 meals a day, but that comes out of your school fees. So school is mandatory, kindergarten through 8th grade.
Okay.
But if you can't pay the fees, you don't necessarily go, depending on where you are.
So what are the fees like? How much? Ballpark.
Basically, for primary school, we're figuring about $250 a year. That covers everything. Uniforms and meals and so on.
Oh.
For secondary school, depending on the school, it can be $300 to $500 a year.
Okay, so we're all sitting here going like, that's not a lot of money, but what's the typical income? Or these are questions you may or may not be able. But I mean, is $250 a lot of money to the typical Kenyan?
It is. It is. It depends on where you live. There are some very, very wealthy people in Kenya. There are some beautiful, 5-star hotels and people who are incredibly wealthy. There are also, I think the average income in Kibera particularly is around $1 a day.
So $250 is a lot of money.
Yeah. If you're making $300 a year, and you still have to feed your other kids and pay for your,
I was doing a little reading on Kenya, and it said that, I want to say coffee? Is coffee a big deal there? Or no?
They grow coffee.
Okay.
Kenyans are more likely to drink chai or tea, usually, unless they're younger and progressive. Coffee is a big deal if you're a tourist, so they provide coffee to tourists.
Okay.
I don't drink coffee, but
it's
a huge crop. Tea is also a huge crop. I've seen fields and fields and miles and miles and miles of tea plantations.
I have never seen that before. That'd be cool.
There's a place I haven't gone to yet that's a purple tea farm that I would really love to go to. I've had purple tea. I've got some in my house. They have purple tea and purple chocolate tea.
So when you brew it, it's purple?
It turns purple in your cup. It's delicious. Yeah.
Who knew? Right here in Chautauqua Sunrise, you learn about purple tea. That's the first time I've ever said those words together. Purple tea.
A purple chocolate tea.
Purple chocolate tea. Okay. So Then I also read tourism obviously is a big deal because they call it the big five, the animals that everybody wants to see.
Yeah.
But what is the main industry of Kenya? I mean, are they industrial or is it pretty much personal services and tourism and farming, agriculture?
That is a really good question.
All right. Well, next time I see you, maybe you'll have
I
a
will
little
ask. I'm going back in a week. I go back on the 19th. So
Oh,
I will
boy.
find, I'll even write it down.
Yeah.
I will find out.
I realize it's regional sometimes.
Yeah.
And Kenya's a pretty big country.
It is big. It is big. I mean, Nairobi, we're talking about the beaches in Mombasa. Nairobi's an 8-hour car ride from Mombasa, and Nairobi's in the middle of the country.
Wow.
So it's another, 5 or 6 hours to get to the Kenyan or the Ugandan border.
Okay, so in your experience in Kenya, if I was first step off the airplane and you said, where would you like to go? Are there different like regions, like hills and mountains, and we already talk about beaches, but what would you see in Kenya? I mean, what's the geography like?
Everything. You can see everything. I did bring a few pictures, but I'm not sure if the geography pictures got up. You can see anything from savanna areas, so
grasslands.
fields, grasslands, low trees, shrubs. Then you go a little farther and there are volcanic formations and caverns and places you can hike down into the gullies and the gorges. There are beaches. There are mountains. One of my friends has suggested that we climb Mount Kenya at some point. I'm thinking I have a little more work to do before I can do that, but I would love to. So there are mountains, Mount Kenya, and Mount Kilimanjaro is just on the other side of the border. So you can get into the mountain regions.
So it's got a little bit of everything.
It's got a little
there.
of everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I digress for a moment, but tell me if I'm wrong, and maybe you don't know this, but I believe that Africa used to be hooked to North America at one, like millions of years ago.
I believe so.
I think it was like around New Jersey area, or the Palisades.
so.
I think they all kind
I
of.
mean, if you look at the coastlines.
Yeah, they all kind of fit together. So it's just sort of
Pangea.
like they're our cousins.
Yeah. Yeah.
How crazy is that? Okay, so culture-wise, what are the differences, would you say, between living in Westfield and living in Kenya? I mean, are there like customs that you wouldn't do or you have to do? How you greet each other, mealtime, all those sorts of things.
I have to be a little careful.
Please do.
One of the greetings, there are a lot of greetings. You can say hello and many, good morning, good afternoon, hello, whatever. But you always answer that things are good. So if you say, habari za leo, what is the news of the day is the technical translation. Well, it means how is your day? You always say nzuri, nzuri or nzuri, which is good. Everything is good. Later you can tell people that your grandmother died and your kids have the flu and whatever else. You can come bring that in later, but you always answer that it's good. Things are good. Or when you say hujambo, which is hello to a single person, or hamjambo, which is hello to a group of people, si jambo is always the answer, which is there's nothing wrong. Everything's fine, nothing's wrong.
And because you don't want to be like the complainer?
I think so. I think that has a lot to do with it. Or other people have it worse, so I'm fine, that kind of thing.
That's interesting.
There's also an amazing communal mentality in East Africa. I think that's true all over, that we are more important than me, pretty much across the board.
So
when I do like
yeah.
I did a paper for something on national anthems, and one of the things I learned around the world, but one of the things I learned is that in Africa as a continent, most national anthems don't have me or I or my, whereas the rest of the world, we have a lot of that in our national anthems, but it's always we, almost always we. I think there are two countries that are different. But it's the same thought. When I was doing feeding programs, you will give a cup of porridge to a kid who hasn't eaten in 48 hours, and this 5-year-old will walk over and hand it to his 2-year-old sister and make sure she's done eating before he even goes into the cup. The teenage boys, at the one program I was at, they stand in the back and they wait till the kids are done, and they wait until women who come in to get food for their families, these boys who are teenagers, they're hungry, they're standing there looking for food, they don't come anywhere near it until everybody else has been taken care of. It's an amazing, it's a very cultural thing. That's not to say that there aren't people who are selfish, of course there are, or self-centered, or who need things themselves and will ask for themselves, but it's a totally different mindset.
Is it a patriarchal or matriarchal society, or is it a blend now? Because I know in maybe 200 years ago it would have been different.
It's a blend. Politically, it's still very male-oriented. But if you go into anybody's house,
To the
Mom's
ground
in
level,
charge.
Mama's in charge. Big
Mom's in
Mama.
charge. And I remember I was given a Kenyan name in February
Oh,
of Mama
congratulations.
Yao, which is technically it means our mother, but mother of everybody.
Oh,
so
wow.
everybody's mom, which I
Congratulations.
love the name.
Yeah.
But when I was saying to them, okay, is this a good thing? Or are you saying like I'm bossy and mean or whatever? They said, oh, no. We know that the mom is the most important person in the room.
Yeah.
It's like, and this is a group of men.
Right.
Like, yeah, okay. So there's a very strong respect for women, especially older women.
So what would be the number one food that you would go back and eat right now
Oh.
that's not from our part of the world?
I love Kenyan food. The first thing I always think of is mandazi. So
Okay.
when I get there, mandazi is a flatbread
Oh, okay.
that's really simple to make. I've made it here.
Mm-hmm.
And in a minute, I'll put in a little advertising plug, but you could have a chance to taste them in October. It's a flatbread that's fried, that's just delicious. The cook that stays at the homestay where I usually stay, because I stay in homes, I don't stay in hotels, but there are hotels,
Yeah.
makes phenomenal mandazi. And then she serves it with chai, which is half water, half milk and tea. And so that's my favorite thing to
So
eat.
on this mandazi, do they put like toppings?
You
Just fried
No,
fried
just
dough?
fried dough and-
it's like dough dodgers at the
It's just
fair.
delicious. It's so good. Yeah.
You brought some pictures, and
I did.
I don't want to miss any of those. So Jeff, I'm going to just let you pop things up, and how about we just do a
Okay.
at the moment interpretation of the picture? How's that? Okay, so what are we looking at?
Okay, this is at a feeding program that I was at in June, and we fed 250 kids. Generally speaking, if you feed porridge, it costs about $35 to feed those 250 kids with porridge. When we do things like this day, they happen to do hot dogs and juice, and that was about $100, and we fed 250 kids. But I have a guide in Kibera who's become a very good friend of mine, who also is the person who keeps me safe in more dangerous places. And that's his new granddaughter, who I just happened to meet that day, his son and
nice.
the baby's mom. So
Marriage is typical like ours, or are they
it's typical.
marry
Polygamy
younger?
is still legal in some places.
Okay.
But 85% of the country professes to be Christian, so they don't so they're more likely to have one marriage. But but polygamy for men can have multiple wives. Women cannot have multiple husbands.
Okay,
But yes, marriage is pretty
much same.
It's pretty much the same.
Okay, all right. We're in a school.
Yep. This is also at that same feeding program, but we also at that day handed out feminine hygiene products because they're not easy to get a hold of and they're somewhat
You
expensive.
know, I have read that,
So we did
and
that.
I know that in our Rotary programs, we've known that this particular issue keeps girls out of used to keep
It
girls
can
out of
keep
school.
girls out of school.
And by having the feminine hygiene products, kids can go to school.
Stay in school.
Am I right on that?
That is true.
So
Yeah.
so where do you get these products? Where do you get these supplies?
Well, at the mall or at the grocery store.
Oh,
or
I
at
thought
the,
maybe it was supplied by a fund or
no,
somebody.
volunteers pay for them.
Okay, there
Mostly
we go.
we just take what we can and volunteers pay.
Okay.
If we can get donations, wonderful, and we'll use those, but we tend to pay for them ourselves.
All right.
Yeah. But there are malls, I think people have asked about that. Oh, this is a Rotary gift. If you were popped into the middle of a mall in Kenya, you would not know that you were not in the United States, unless you wanted a specific store, but very, you can get anything you need there. I went and talked to the Dunkirk Fredonia Rotary before I left, and there was this orthopedic rehab school that I've been to a few times needed new therapy beds, and so that organization paid for 2. And when I got there, they had just delivered the day before I arrived.
And so what would
2 new therapy beds.
What would you do with that therapy bed?
Those are for therapeutic exercises, they're for massage, they are for rehabilitation treatments for teachers and adults, or students and adults.
Sometimes a teacher.
Yeah, you can see that, like if you were getting a massage,
Right,
there's
put your head
there's the
down.
face
Yeah.
cut out there.
Oh, yeah.
But they're also for stretching for.
And you told me
CP
the
and
price
so
on this. This wasn't a lot of money.
It was about $300
That's
for a
not
bed.
much.
No.
You know, so to make the
Yeah.
difference in kids' lives, that's what.
And the ones that they got this time that they asked for actually are mobile, so they can fold them up and take them to clinics outside of the rehab center and take them all over where they need to do clinics.
Okay. Wow, this is fascinating.
Yeah.
Okay.
I could talk forever.
I
This is
know.
at that school.
Okay.
Same school. I got to actually go into a classroom this time. So all those kids either are recovering from surgery or can't get to a regular ed school because of their wheelchairs or their disabilities.
So there's a rehab
And this is a rehab center,
Not
rehab
a special,
hospital.
not special needs, but a rehab. That's different.
Correct.
Okay.
This is a rehab hospital.
So-
It's an amazing, I talked about it before, and I know we were almost out of time, but this opened as a feeding program.
Mm-hmm.
And then the people doing the feeding realized that kids couldn't get to the feeding program because of their disabilities. So they opened a school, and then they opened a rehab center because these kids needed therapy. And then kids were missing school because they were getting surgeries. And so the rehab center grew. And so then they realized kids couldn't travel after surgery. So they have a guest house, and then they have a feeding center. Then they put in a dispensary so that they would have medical supplies available. Right, this is in the middle of Maasai land.
Okay,
so nowhere.
shock me right now. We don't have anything like this around here.
No.
This is
They
pretty
have
progressive.
very progressive. Then they have therapeutic swimming places, and then they realized that a lot of the problems kids were having, the physical problems they were having, were from birth accidents.
Mm-hmm.
So now they coordinate with a birthing center so that there's a safe place for kids to
Wonderful.
give birth. It's phenomenal.
Wow.
I'd like to volunteer there next
Yeah.
time. This is a different feeding program. This is the porridge that we
So
can
porridge,
make.
what is porridge there?
It's 3 different grains and water and sugar.
Is it cooked?
Yeah, we
Oh,
cooked it.
it's a hot-
I didn't bring the pictures, but there are pictures of me mixing it with my hands and then cooking
So
over
what
the
are the
stove.
3 grains? Probably
Millet, corn, and millet, maize, and
wheat, rye, barley.
might be barley.
Okay.
I'm
Is
not
it-
sure. I'll have to double check. But
you
it's
like it?
3. I actually do.
See, I like those kinds of things.
I do. There's nothing that I've tasted in Kenya that I don't like.
Okay. And again, who supplies this?
Volunteers.
Volunteers.
Send the money
This is
for
not
it.
government subsidized. Wow. All right. All right. Who's this gentleman?
This is a teacher. His name is Dan. He runs a training school for adults who want to learn to start their own businesses, who are trying to get
Oh,
themselves off the
entrepreneurial.
ground. So this also is in the
Super.
slum, but he runs 11-week classes, teaches people to start their own businesses, and then they help them write grants to get funding
Excellent.
for their
We call it the
businesses.
Small Business Development Center here in Jamestown area.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So
Oh, boy.
they have a sports center there.
Nice.
And this particular one is actually open to all the schools in Kibera. I don't know how many schools are in Kibera, but it's a slum and most places don't have a place to play. So you can sign up if you're in a school to bring your students for an hour or a half a day or a day. And then they have sports instructors, they have coaches, they have people who will come and teach you how to play sports. And then you get to play for however long you're signed up for with your school. And then you go back to school.
You know, watching the Olympics, the Kenyans have gotten some medals.
Yeah,
I was
they have.
thinking of you yesterday because I saw it was a long distance run. I don't know, it was 10,000
Yeah.
meters or something like that, and she took first place from Kenya, so that was pretty cool.
And Kenya is a mile above sea level, so you've already got
Yeah.
that training. And then there are some beautiful training areas that people from all over the world will come to that are mountainous, and you run up and down.
Okay, how about 1 or 2 more pictures, then we got to wrap things up here. Where are you now?
There is a greenhouse program at a secondary school, again in the slum. And the first time I went to it, they had just planted the plants. So when I went back the last time, they had all grown and they had just harvested. And
What
so
is
I was-
it, tomatoes?
Those are tomatoes.
Wow. those are-
Beautiful greenhouses, lovely programs.
Okay. All right, and then we got a couple more,
might
Joe
be.
said. Okay.
And there we were doing some, that was another volunteer from the United States there who was a psychologist who has a social work degree. And so we were doing mental health classes for the secondary school there.
Okay.
That was their French class, by the
Ah,
way. They were learning French when we came in. This is the special needs school that is my favorite place to work, and that's when I was teaching Kenyan Sign Language
Oh,
to
cool.
the students.
All right, we're just about down to nothing left here.
Well,
Karin,
I can give you
is
this quick
fascinating.
ad, though.
Yeah, go for it.
October 5th,
Yeah.
at Lakeshore Center for the Arts, I will be doing a series of 4 talks on Kenya. So it'll be 1 hour at a time, so people are welcome to come to 1 hour. I'll be doing education, healthcare, volunteering, and stories of the people. And I will be serving Kenyan food in between each session.
Will you send me a poster or
I will
announcement on
send-
that?
yep.
And we'll get that out, because that sounds like something I'd like to do.
I will
All
send
right, before the show, I said, what would you like people to know about Kenya and its peoples?
That Kenya is an incredibly beautiful country. The people have a reputation for being some of the friendliest in the world, and it's a well-deserved reputation. And it's absolutely worth traveling there. Whether you want to volunteer or just visit or go on safari, it's a place worth seeing.
Karin Cockram, good for you. Good on you.
Thank you.
You know, there's a lot of folks out there like yourself that's doing good things, and we need to shine the light on you. So be safe in your travels next week, you
Thank
said?
you. I leave the 19th.
Okay, and so maybe we'll do another show, and you let me know what happened this time. How
Okay.
long are you going to be there?
A little over 3 weeks
Okay.
this time.
You take care and be safe there.
Thank you so
Folks, I
much.
hope you enjoyed that show. I really did, and I love digging into culture and finding out things. We're going to do this all again next Saturday, right here on Access Chautauqua, Spectrum 1301. You can catch the show on Facebook and on YouTube, forever and ever. So take care. Have a great weekend. And Karin, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
We'll see you all next week at 9 a.m. right here, Chautauqua Sunrise. I'm Doc Hamels. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.